We hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men are created equal. That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey, welcome to another For Liberty's Sake. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Eric Thompson out here in California. Around here Monday through Saturday here on MAGATV.com. Normally on YouTube live, but I've been struck. They don't want me streaming live for 14 days as punishment because I dare exercise my free speech. So if you're watching a playback of this, welcome. If you want to get a hold of me, email me at eric@forlibertiessake.com. We're going to be interviewing the team over at truthmatters.biz here in about 15 minutes. So make sure you stay for that. Million stories that I could discuss with you guys today. And they're all around division. All the stories are about division. Israel, Hamas. Critical race theory, no racism. Biden unable to do the job. Everything is causing unease. There's stories of horrendous acts. A 18-year-old boy went into someone's house, happened to be a black 18-year-old boy, and now a man, I should say, and a 4-year-old boy, and he took him outside and stabbed him to death. Because the news is saying that racism is so entwined in our culture, and just like with Antifa, the only way you can that the country can get its act together is now using violence when necessary. So this idea of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, this idea of going out and pursuing your dreams, and if you choose to go to college, that everybody can go to college, and if you put in your time and seek help if you need it, that you can go up the ladder quicker, or if you're somebody good with your hands, you can go into apprenticeships or contracting. And it was everything was open. You can just go for it. When I was in the Marine Corps, there was no individual. We were all a unit. Now the military is turning into individuals. So you have men wearing dresses. You have commanders on military bases saying you can't leave the base unless you get vaccinated. So they're basically prisoners on our own military bases. That if you say that only women can have a baby, that is now forbidden. If you write books that Amazon considers to be controversial, they will take your book down. Not that your book was an error. Not that your book is hateful. Somebody there deemed that it is controversial. So here's an example. Joe Biden spoke to Navy cadets. The problem is there's a lot of people in America that know that Joe doesn't have game. Joe isn't really qualified mentally or physically to do the job. And he's a Marxist. He's governed by Barack Obama. So he's talking to the cadets, right? And only Joe would do this. He tells people to clap for himself. He tells people to smile and to be encouraged. And from Gateway Pundit, Joe Biden delivered a commencement address at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut, Wednesday. Biden got irritated at the lack of enthusiasm from the Navy cadets, and he asked them to clap. Quote, "You're a really dull class. Come on, man. Is the sun getting to you?" Unquote. Biden said with the sun beating down on his face. Quote, "I would think you'd have an opportunity when I say that about the Navy to clap, but to be here together. But to be here together, he said. I have trouble even reading what Joe's saying. From a tweet, quote, "You are really dull class. Come on, man. Is the sun getting to you? I would think you'd have an opportunity when I say about the Navy to clap, to be here together." He's squinting. I don't have time to play the clip, but Joe's trying to get people to be excited about him, and he's telling them, come on, man, clap for me. Because we're divided. Here's another article, and I saw it yesterday. Joe was in Dearborn, Michigan, and Joe was touting that the future of the auto industry is electric cars. And so Joe's in his this electric SUV. He's got reporters looking out through his window. He's in the driver's seat, and one of the women reporters says, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Well, only if you get in front of the car. Like, I'm going to run you over." He later said that was a joke. Strange joke. So while they're kind of kissing his butt, Joe looks over at the guy in the seat next to him and says, "Hey, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go 0 up to 80, and then just to show how fantastic these cars are." Well, take a look at this picture. Because when I first thought about it, do you think Joe Biden should be driving 80 miles an hour? Remember, he's telling people, young people who aren't even excited that the quote-unquote the president of the United States is there. So he's looking at him and like, come on, man, clap for me. Well, here's this article from Jim Hoff, Gateway Pundit. There's a photo here. You can see, if you're listening on a podcast, you can see it at Gateway Pundit. The article is, "Wow, Biden caught fake driving someone else's steering vehicle. It was all a stunt," video and pics. How do we know this? Well, you got Joe with the right hand on his steering wheel, but then you got someone, so that's Joe's right arm, and then to the right of Joe's right arm is somebody's hand on the steering wheel. Well, Joe can't have two right arms. So Joe's like, "I'm going to go 80. He didn't go 80. Somebody in the car helped him go 80. But the media wanted to give the impression that Joe is a vibrant, he's engaged, he should be listened to. He is, he's just like a normal president, functions normal, can actually make decisions, not a total puppet. As we go through the show today, and as I interview them, what we're going to be dealing with, the people from Truth Matters, is we're going to be dealing with issues like, why is Fauci saying that, we should all expect to get a COVID booster? Well, I thought vaccines is what we needed. We're going to talk about the Israeli situation. Why do a majority of the Democrats polled, why are they blaming Israel for defending themselves against Gaza? Why is it that we allow ourselves to be divided by all kinds of issues in our country? Because right now we're being played, and the media sets the agenda. There's a story we'll talk about a 10-year-old girl got slapped in the face by a bus driver. And I'll tell you why. We've got videos here of Rashida Tlaib saying Israel is the problem for the entire Middle East. And then Joe, there's a video of him saying that he respects Rashida Tlaib and he really admires her. So how do we move forward if we're just going to sit here and kind of try to be, okay, I'm going to tweet on this side and they're going to tweet on that side, and I don't want to say anything, and I don't want to make people mad, and I want my neighbors to like me, while they're on the other side going, beat them up, chase them down, get them fired, force them to wear masks, keep them out of the jobs, keep them under tyranny, tell them, yes, your state may have said you don't have to wear a mask, but just keep in mind we're going to force a COVID booster on you. So don't get too comfortable. Make sure that, like in Fresno here, people are universally almost on the corners for Hamas. Division is underway. Book burning equivalencies are underway with silencing of people's books and materials and websites. And history shows if we just continue down this path, then we're basically going to end up where, not me, I'm in my 50s, down the road, if it continues, I'm not going to assume that, but if it does, we're going to end up with targeted racial groups, ethnic groups, religious groups in the future in America. If we don't change the direction, we'll have a country with limited or no gun rights. We'll have expectations that certain groups should have preferential treatment over other groups. And when you surmise it all together, we're in the midst of a culture war, a mini civil war for the heart of America. So the America that I grew up in is under attack. If you don't like the America we live in because you've been indoctrinated, you've gone through Marxist education portals called public education or private schools that are far left, then you have to be pretty happy with the way things are going right now. You have to be. Because you've got the presidency, you've got the Oval Office, you've got control of any type of policies that go through. So yes, right now they've got bills stalled up in the Senate, but they're still controlling the message. There's not going to be anything going through the government that's going to be pro-America. You have states that are fighting for it. You've got Florida and Texas and Oklahoma, Alabama, and some of these states are, Arizona is fighting for election integrity. They're fighting. But in general, the federal government, FBI, CIA, military leadership, they're all pretty much saying, let's just keep marching on. Let's march on toward destroying the nuclear family. Let's march on towards advancing Marxism. Let's silence people. The guy that was the commander of the Space Force, one of the commanders, Colonel, got relieved of his duty because he dared to speak out against Marxism and critical race theory and teaching military members that white is bad. So he got relieved of duty. So we can sit here and say these are all bad. We're past the point of being bad. We're at the point of trending. And we have to say, I'm willing to risk being doxxed. I'm willing to have opportunities taken away from me if we want to preserve our country. If not, then we'll just you can draw out the map. We'll talk about it today with the Truth Matters team. The map is in place. Are we going to deviate and turn back around, or are we just going to continue on that path? And I think that is the main question for all of us. So, hey, I'm headed to break here. When we get back, I'm going to have the Truth Matters team on with me, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm not being negative today. I just want you to know I'm trying to be real, and you have to get real with me, and we have to fight like hell or just roll over. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Clean Slate Tax and your tax mess. Clean Slate Tax is a tax relief company that helps alleviate tax debt. Tax relief, tax credit, deduction, small businesses, we do it all. Find out if you're eligible for tax debt relief. Call Clean Slate Tax today at 888-839-6139. That's 888-839-6139.
Looks like you're not sleeping well.
Yeah. How did you know? Hey, Megan!
What? Hey, you're that guy.
The My Pillow guy.
That's right, and I'm here to help you get the best sleep of your lives. Oh, you have a down pillow. Here's the problem with down pillows. You lay there, you feel comfortable, and guess what? It goes down, and you got one bent neck. So this pillow's no good, and I see you sleeping on memory foam.
Right.
I'll show you what's wrong with that idea.
Okay.
Sleep's all about too high or too low, and I'm going to show you where your comfort level would be.
So, that feels better.
Right, that's better, but I'm not going to sit and hold this all day. So every morning you're getting up like, it's not good. You're sleeping better,
Much better.
and you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Hey, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me here on For Liberty's Sake. And I'm excited to have on some really cool people. I'm going to bring you girls on. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Hey, I'm blessed. I get two very smart people to help me, just a little man who's trying. So, no, I'm looking forward to this. So I do want to welcome you guys. I have your website pulled up here. For those who don't know who you girls are, I thought we do a quick introduction. I've had Courtney on, but is it Danita? Is that your name?
Danita. Yep, Danita.
Okay. Why don't you give us a quick little bio on who you are?
I'm from Idaho. I served in Army Reserve Officer Training Corps, and currently I work for the government for DHS. But yeah. Oh, there you go. There's a little bio about me.
Yeah, well, I was in the Marine Corps, so thank you for your service. And if you're working for DHS, you're welcome. So what's it like being in DHS from your worldview? Is it stressful? Are you having to be careful what you're saying, or how are things looking?
So it's kind of interesting. Courtney knows me really well at this point. I don't really filter a lot of things that come out of my mouth. There are a lot of people that I work with that are like, oh, Danita, you got to be careful what you say. You might be, for lack of a better word, fired for your political opinions. And I'm just like, if they want to try, they can try. But I brought my high school singers teacher, so my choir teacher, I brought her basically to court when I was 15 years old. Like, I'm not afraid to bring people to the law and be like, hey, you can't, I've done nothing wrong, and I have documented evidence that I'm doing my job. And other than that, when I do podcasts and things like that, I do always have to say that even though I work for the government, nothing that I say is their opinion or factual in their from their mouths or from their view. This is all from me and my opinion, and anything that, if I am going to quote a direct source, then I'll provide that source for you guys. But for me and myself, these are my opinions. Any statements made by me are from me. So.
Well, awesome. Well, as we go through the show, I've got a lot of things I want to discuss with you guys. So, Courtney, for those that didn't have the pleasure of hearing you last time, what got you to put together this website, get this group of people together to fight for liberty?
So Ethan, who I think is still waiting to try and come into the studio.
Yeah, we'll bring him in here, I think. There we go.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hello.
so 2020 was a crazy year for most people. I think I'm not unique in thinking that. But for me, I, had lost both of my jobs. I had not too long prior started a new career, and everything that I was embarking had been shut down. And on top of it, I live in an area, and I was in industry where my views were not popular. And I was often being silenced. And when I wasn't silenced, I was facing serious repercussions for my views. And I realized that as a result, more than anything, what I had become a product of was autocritique. I was so afraid to speak my mind and to share what I thought that I really had a hard time even formulating it when people asked me. And I always feel, integrity is one of my first principles. And I always feel that one of the biggest problems is people, not speaking their truth. And that's one of the reasons why we're in the position that we're in today. And I didn't want to be part of the problem any longer. So I started to speak out on some of my social media platforms. And through that, I became part of some threads and different, chat groups. And I met these two lovely individuals. And Ethan had said that he had this idea, and I really loved it. I was like, let's do it. So yeah, that's kind of how it really came out of being completely isolated, depressed, and enthusiastic and anxious. So,
well, then you're not unique in that, unfortunately. So, hey, Ethan, welcome to the show here. So, give us a quick bio on who are you and how did you get connected with these two great ladies?
So, much like what Courtney said, we just met on a chat room, and I had an idea for a while, and I actually just got out of the military just before thank you. Just before the 2020 election. I was working on nuclear submarines up in Washington State. Okay. And it was an interesting experience. And for a time there, growing up my whole life, I wanted to join the military and be in the military. But then I get in the military and I realized, this isn't for me. And so I had like a identity crisis about what I wanted to do with my life. And I noticed something. I noticed that all the heroes I enjoy reading, I love to read, were journalists. So I'm like, okay, I'll be a journalist. And I'm in school right now. I'm currently going to UVU. I'm 23 years old, and I'm studying to become a journalist. So I wanted to start up a blog to try and get some footing underneath me about how to write as a journalist. Right. And I just felt like that there was an idea. I just felt like there was an open market for people to try and convey truth. And so I thought that I would take a lot more money and time. But my dad said some really good advice, which is, Ethan, you should just do it. Just start writing and putting out content, and maybe the money will come later. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to need partners because I'm busy and I need someone to hold me accountable. And I don't think I can do this alone. And right. Anita is just brilliantly outspoken, as she already said. She is
well said.
Very savvy when it comes to reading legislation. And Courtney just has connections up the wazoo, and she's been doing fantastic on the podcasting scene. And she's been a brilliant and wonderful spokesperson. And me, I'm just the writer.
Now, I've written, I don't know, 5,000 political articles for David Harris and different people. So there's definitely a need out there. I mean, the reason why I do this, the reason why I own magabook.com, the reason why I'm starting Twellet and Maga TV is because I want to connect with you three, and give you access to people, because right now we're normally on YouTube Live, but not anymore. Right. So my show was growing. I'm like, okay, I hate YouTube. But you know what? I'll take the audience so I can build up my platforms, like you said, to get exposure. And then I get a little thing saying, you actually said, I'm abbreviating COVID now for CB. That's I'm no longer calling it COVID. Because what's happening is the cancel culture has decided COVID, election integrity, audit, those are trigger words. You're immediately gone. No questions asked. And so journalism is going to be interesting because you're going to be around an environment that is actually living in massive hypocrisy. because most journalists are not journalists anymore. They're basically propaganda. They know if they write a certain way, they get printed. If they don't, they don't. So that's why I'm excited about truthmatters.biz. When you guys write your articles, since you're all outspoken, are there a couple issues, we can kind of go around the room, are there a couple issues that when you think I'm going to write are your main sticking points? Are the things that you want to really convey to the culture needs to be addressed? It could be the obvious, or is there things that maybe that are outside what I'm thinking? So we'll start with Danita. Is there anything that you go, I want to go yell from the mountaintops? What was there some one or two things that are your main thrusters to getting out there and doing that?
Well, it's really funny because I was homeschooled until high school. And something that my mom used to always say was that public schools and the public school system, they teach you what to think and not how to think. Right. And in my family, I have 10 siblings, direct siblings. Yes, Courtney, sure, I love that.
What does that say, Courtney? Let me get my glasses on because I'm old. It says ban critical theory
and bring back critical thinking.
And Utah did, by the way. Utah just passed legislation to block critical race theory.
Yeah, for sure. Which is a good step. But anyway, so in my family, we very much ask a lot of questions, and we're all very outspoken. So when we get like new spouses in the group, or even just like boyfriends and girlfriends coming over to like family get-togethers, they're always like, "Oh my gosh, how do you guys love each other after you guys fight so much?" And we're like, "We're not fighting. We're just arguing. Like we're arguing our point, right?"
Right.
And at the end of the argument, we're like, "Cool, we disagree. Love you. Give you a hug, like whatever, right?" We don't treat anybody any differently from having a different opinion. And I think growing up with that, because we're all so opinionated and so headstrong, but we have completely different opinions, right, it's easy for me to kind of be like, this is really important. This topic is really important. And I want people to start asking questions. I want people to come to their own conclusions. I don't want everybody to come to my conclusion, but I want people to be making decisions based on education and actually doing their own research, not even just taking my article, reading it as fact, right? I want people to go and research things. So I think throughout the week, we kind of come up with topics based on what we feel is the most important that week. And then we kind of divvy them up and we write our articles about them. We try not to put really a lot of like opinionated things in the article. We try to have mostly just facts and a lot of sources, so that people can really come to their own conclusions.
Okay, so Courtney, I know you're a motivator. You're like Superwoman. You've overcome and you motivate people. What in this mix? How would you consider what's driving you the most? If you say our website is really about what would you say you guys are? How would you paint the painting of we are this?
We're about truth. And I think that's really what, so my shirt, it's all about, we want to get rid of critical thinking because, as Danita said, I think in this culture, people are, oh, can you not hear me? Can you hear me now?
No, you're good. You just said you wanted to get rid of critical thinking.
Yes.
She said critical race.
Critical theory.
Yeah, critical
No, we
theory.
want critical thinking.
You want to ban critical theory and we want to restore critical thinking. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah. So, and I think it's because people have really been in this current zeitgeist, people have been taught what to think, not how to think. And I think that when you're taught what to think, you can't think for yourself and therefore you can't find truth. So I really think that one of our main missions is to restore not just the truth, it's to seek truth. It really is about that process of exploration and intellectual curiosity. And when you're so bombarded constantly with what to think and constant propaganda, then people don't even bother to explore that there could be an alternate view. There could be things that they're not seeing, and therefore the truth is hidden. So
Right.
I think that's one of our main missions. And, that is why we present so many sources, and we actually show you the sources so that you can start linking, come to your own conclusions. As human beings, we all have bias. You can only see
Right.
through the lens of your eyes, and therefore you're going to come to your own conclusion. So it's not our agenda to get you to align with us, but it is very much for us to show you that what you're seeing, in the mainstream media may not be the whole picture. And therefore, it might be worth asking questions, start digging a little bit deeper. And in terms of like specific topics, yes, as you said, I'm a motivator. So I think the truth is really empowering. And I think that when you're fed lies, you become really dependent because you no longer know what to believe. You no longer know what your own thoughts really are, and or how to formulate them. And so when you start doing your own digging and learn that you are capable of creating beliefs and thoughts and coming to conclusions on your own, that's incredibly empowering. So I think that's one of the things that, I really want to stand behind. I think all of us really firmly believe in that. And so there are many topics amongst that.
Right.
Which,
but truth, right? Truth seems to be just say it and make sure that it's backed up with data, and then let the chips fall. Exactly. Yeah. Because Ethan's got his article here, Fire from Hell. So what's your Ethan? When you were putting that together? So like when people are coming to the website, and I'm helping promote your links, and when you go to, like, you're learning it in college. So when you go to write this, what's the premise of this article, for example? What were you trying to say or convey in this article? Can you hear me?
So the information I was just trying to convey in this article was, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Basically, the information I was trying to convey in this particular article was the perceived media perception as to why this is, the actual reason why things are occurring the way they are, and just how evil of an organization Hamas is. They literally call, and I quote this at the very top of the page, I insert a quote from the Hamas Covenant Charter.
Yeah, we got it right here.
Yeah, it's right there.
There we go. Bam. Yep. The day of judgment will not come about. Yeah, good.
Yep. Hello.
Okay. I think.
And also just help people realize that literally. Oh, can you hear me?
There's probably a little bit of a delay, so I'll let you finish before I interrupt you. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So one of the biggest things I was trying to portray as well is that Palestinians in the government right now, Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, and his ruling party, Fatah, and much of the Palestinian Hamas, which actually has a political wing that controls much of the Palestinian regional government, have no interest, no desire, and no plans to pursue peace with Israel. Israel has literally come up with so many different peace deals. I mean, we've seen that with the Oslo Accords back in the 1990s with Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat and Bill Clinton. We saw that with the Camp David Accords. Also with in Egypt. And Egypt was probably the most ardent enemy of Israel. 1970s. We got to make peace. We can't continue this war forever. And the Palestinian Authority does not want peace, and they use their people and they abuse, and they're being empowered in administration because Biden just resent them $235 billion.
So when you're writing this, then you look at, I brought up a poll for you guys to all look at. So only 15% of Democrats are blaming Hamas for what's going on over there. So I think it's important for you that you guys are addressing these type of issues, because that at least there's a part of the population that Courtney thinks that Israel is the problem in the Middle East, and if they would just go away, then everybody would be happy and everybody kumbaya. And I mean, I'm a little older, so I remember Arafat, and I remember all the way back to Rabin, and this is never going to be resolved as far as I'm concerned. But when you talk to people or people talking to you on social media, since I don't do Facebook and stuff anymore, what are you getting a lot of anti-Israel sentiment when you guys are on the social media platforms? Are you feeling this?
Yeah, I will actually tell you, he was the rabbi who conducted my father's funeral. He actually told my mom that the problem is the religious Jews. They just need to give up Gaza, and they just need to give it up. And that's the problem. So, yeah, and that was just a shock to me that it came from a rabbi, a rabbi who so well. But yeah, I'm definitely seeing it. I'm seeing it all over social media. And this is, again, the danger of lies and propaganda, because if you truly believe that, that's within your purview to believe what you want to believe. But I think most people they've only seen what's being shown on, mainstream and what's being shown on social media, and social media is censoring the alternate view. So,
right.
So people are so limited in what facts they get to see. So it's really hard to draw, an accurate conclusion when you're seeing it through a myopic lens.
And Danita, over at DHS, can you talk about issues like this, or is it pretty much? Oops, I lost him. Can you speak about issues like this at work, or do you have to pretty much just look down at your desk and do your job and then go home? I mean, are you hearing this around the coffee pot also, that if these Jews would just give up the land, then everything would go peaceful? Because that's what I'm seeing on my platforms, and I have to keep correcting people. But what's it like to be working for the government with these type of things blowing up right now? Can you say anything?
I mean, I speak my mind, right? And
right.
I've had even people higher up be like, maybe that was a little too much. I'm like, well, I'm like, sorry, but not sorry.
Right.
Obviously, I don't intend to offend anybody.
Sure.
But
sure.
I have had a few people quite a bit higher up say to me in private that they're really proud of what I'm doing, but that they would never say that out loud in front of everyone. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. At least you are looking at things yourself, right? Maybe you can pass that on to other people in private, maybe it doesn't have to be in a mass setting. But I have in the last week, I've had a couple of people make comments about how this is Israel's fault and not the Palestinians and not Hamas even. Like, they don't even mention Hamas. And I'm like, it's kind of the same. It's the same people that also say that January 6th was a terrorist insurrection, but right. All last year, none of the BLM or Antifa rallies / riots were violent at all. None of them were violent. And if they were violent, there was only a couple of them that were violent. And just things like that I'm like, okay. And I still have conversations with these people. I still love them, I'll still talk to them. I would still invite them over for a house party, whatever, right? But we have completely different views of the world. And their views, they get mostly from mainstream media, whether it be right or left. Most of them are from the left. And my views, I kind of get from both. I do watch a lot of both of mainstream media, right and left, but I also like to research. Like, as Courtney and Ethan will tell you, I do a lot of the research for a lot of our stuff. I just like researching. I like reading things from both sides of any type of conflict or any type of argument, whatever it is. And I like to read legislative proceedings. I like to watch and listen to legislative proceedings, which take hours and hours and hours. But for me, that's fun. Like, I like actual information and not information that I already feel it's filtered.
That's awesome. Ethan, over at college, are you dealing a lot with the anti-Israel sentiments?
So honestly, I haven't been really privy to that because college campuses nowadays are all online.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have seen a lot of wearing a lot of attire that does support Black Lives Matter, and there has recently come out in solidarity with Hamas.
Man, crazy world. Courtney,
I'm sure
it sounds
there is, but I haven't seen it as much as I would like because everything's online.
It sounds like, Courtney, this self-censorship is they want it in the DHS, they want it at colleges, they want it everywhere, and she's not going to do it. Danita's not going to do it but it's still like people in the organization are saying, we like what you're saying. We're not going to say anything, but we like what you're saying. The problem is if there's only a few people, Paul Revere's, then the masses don't get the message, and that's why it's important you guys are doing this, and other people need to get engaged in real street journalism and get this, because no reason why only 15% of Democrats, which I grew up in the Midwest and my dad was a Democrat, and the Reagan Democrats and the Clinton Democrats, 15% would not think the way, only 15% are blaming Hamas. That is a new thing in the last Obama years plus. It's not something I would have seen in the past. But the self-censorship has to end if we're going to fight the fight.
Yeah, and I think it really starts with the individual. People need to start speaking their truth and living their truth. And this comes down to the way individuals live their lives. So, when you're talking about this self-censorship and each of us, what we've experienced, and then people saying like, I won't do that, but I really support you doing that. Right. I've experienced that just simply with not wearing a mask in my building. I refuse to do it. This is my home. There's no reason I should be wearing a mask to, there's just no reason. Besides the fact that, I have, medical reasons why the mask does not support me in any way, shape, or form. And that should be, an individual decision that I make for my personal health. So, but I've had people privately, even people who work in the building, come up to me and say, I knew it was you. We've had complaints, and I still wear it because I have to. That's how they feel. And they say, but I cheer you on each time. And those little steps, I wish each person would make that choice for themselves if they feel that's the right thing to do. But even just my action has a ripple effect. Those people are seeing that I'm not doing it. It takes away some of the fear that they may have to maybe step into, their personal truth and into what they feel is right for them, and allow them to make individual decisions. Because, for the mask, for example, is a mandate. It's not a law. And so people should be, still making choices for themselves. We still have personal freedoms and liberties, and we need to exercise them.
Well, this reminds me of you as we're talking. So this is a group of people, this is from a tweet, going into a Trader Joe's without mask on. And this is a modern day America 2021.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're at Trader Joe's. Get ready to go in. Go.
Now, I want to stop this as we go into it. For those of you that are watching, Trader Joe's policy now is you don't have to wear a mask. But watch the culture and watch the sheep attack these people, and it's actually very revealing. So it's about another minute and a half here, but this is what I want to talk about the remainder of the show is this tyranny that's underway.
After they lifted their policy.
Yeah.
Too.
Go.
You can feel the tension, guys, in the room. I can feel it as they're going in.
Yeah.
Get out of the fucking store! Hey, don't touch me. Don't touch me. That's assault. That's assault. You touch me, that's assault. You touch me, that's assault.
Right here.
What happened? That's assault. They threw this basket. They threw the basket right there.
You know what?
Get a picture of the basket.
You need to get
They threw the basket.
out of the building.
Right there.
And they're thinking. Okay, awesome. Okay.
You're the troopers. You're the troopers.
You can see all the workers that are like, oh my goodness, like, I know we lifted our mandate, but what do we do now? Like, we took away the policy, but what do we do? Do we just let them roam free?
Right. It reminds me of when I was a young kid, and I would take red ants and drop them in black ant colonies, and watch this one ant try to fight off all the black ants, and he was kicking their butts. But these people are like, look at this guy over here. Got my hands in my pocket. I know I'm supposed to say something, but I just want to get my $15 an hour and go home. But you have this militant mob here that you guys, and I don't know. I don't know if these people will ever deconstruct their thought processes and ever be able to tolerate non-mask. I mean, they're so angry. You guys think it's fear? I mean, are they living in arrested development during the COVID time that they can never function?
I think there is an addiction.
So how do we help these people, Ethan?
I think there's actually partly it's fear, and I think part of it is really brainwashing and cognitive dissonance. They've been immersed in this culture for a year and a half now, and a lot of them did it against their own will, knowing that it didn't quite make sense, knowing that they didn't feel comfortable, knowing that they personally just didn't like it, and they still capitulated, went along with it. So now they have a lot invested in keeping up this charade. And so I think that, and they've also been bombarded with all this media influence about how it's the right thing to do. It makes you a virtuous person. Right. And so I think really what needs to happen is these people do need support because, anytime you're, to use the term, red pilled, there is a anger that happens. There is a complete disruption of your whole worldview. And that's hard to contend with. A lot of people don't have the courage to do that. So I think there does need to be some sort of support for people who are starting to realize, okay, I can let this go. This is not a blankie. This is not my pacifier. This was crippling me and society, and it's a lie. And I can let go of this lie and expose the truth. And people will be set free by the truth.
Well, but like Danita, you're the facts person, right? You're the data person. And the facts have never supported the lockdown. So I think that's the thing that I haven't figured out yet.
Very much opposition of the lockdowns. The facts have actually, the entire time, have been in very much so opposition of the lockdowns and even the masks. So masks, and this happened back with the Spanish flu as well, but masks are actually very detrimental for longer than about 2 weeks. So when they start out with the only 2 weeks, it's like, okay, we can do that. Our health isn't really going to be completely devastated by wearing a mask for 2 weeks. Okay. But then when you lag it on more and more and more, and you instill this fear in people, that I think it's pretty easy to instill fear in people these days. I mean, most people have been brainwashed for about the last 20, 25 years. So the mask thing, this isn't the first time. Yeah, this isn't the first time that they've just completely accepted something because the masses say it, right? But when you continue to wear a mask for that long, and this is something that they found during the Spanish flu time, that Dr. Anthony Fauci actually wrote a lot of articles on the dangers of wearing a mask for a long time, is that you close off your immune system. So when you don't allow your body to allow tiny bits of bacteria throughout the day from everywhere, whether it be dirt, whether it be the air, whether it be from other people, whether it be from contact from other people, whatever that is, if you don't allow your system to experience that on a daily basis for a mass amount of time, the minute you take off your mask, you're going to be dying, actually dying, not just getting sick, but you are going to be dying of every little disease out there. Every little bacteria is going to get to you, and it's going to completely destroy your immune system because you don't have an immune system left. So that's something that they found during the Spanish flu. I mean, millions of people died after they lifted the mask.
So, Ethan, what as I think, are you the youngest on the panel here? Are you the young whippersnapper?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so what is you've grown up in the internet world. So would you say a lot of your friends or family are of that snowflake or that very easily persuadable mindset, or do you have some friends that are fighting the good fight against it and getting back toward liberty? What's your general observation of your generation?
So my particular age group, the 20, I feel like that they're just satisfied with being satisfied. They're not happy. They're not hungry for more. They're not hungry for freedom. And I feel the biggest indications of that is there is an addiction to this fear. And I think that's just rampant everywhere. And I think that more and more people are waking up, but I don't think it's waking up in the magnitude that they are. Plus, we have to remember who runs the internet sphere. It's the far left. They're the most vocal and the most powerful force on the internet. And if you control the means of the public square, which they currently do because they deplatformed President Trump, you come to the realization that they're not interested in trying to regain their gain their freedom. They're addicted to the power that comes from the fear.
Well, let's finish this up here, and this is how this all plays out. It doesn't get any better for these 8 people, which fortunately they went in as a group, so they didn't get totally lambasted. But here we go.
Yeah, they're 19 cents or the organic. R25.
What'd you get there? You got a bag of chips?
Yep, 249.
Wow. A lady threw a basket at us.
Lady threw a basket at them.
God bless you.
What'd you get? Okay, you got a bag of chips?
Yep, I got.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year's, everyone.
Why are y'all doing this? It's just the grocery store. Take this political point over to City Hall.
Go protest somewhere else.
Go protest somewhere else.
We love you. We love you. Awesome.
We don't want to have trouble with y'all.
Okay. We will. Awesome. Okay. Where's our group? These are $2.99.
$2.99. All right.
Oh.
I like that the pregnant lady is out walking around.
Well,
that's important.
I think, which is interesting, guys, and we'll get your feedback on this. How fast information can move in today's world, but how information doesn't move, right? So
yeah,
they should know that Trader Joe's and Costco and these companies said masks are not mandatory. Target, but yet they're all in there like, oh my goodness, they're bringing in the plague and they're trying to kill us. And don't they realize there's a mask mandate? And these are total Trump far left anarchists. They're white mostly, so they're probably racist. And they don't even know how to function. We can't even talk anymore and say, don't you know that a mask is mandatory? And say, well, no, actually it was lifted. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Instead, it's like, get out. You know, and it's like, can we, because if we can't, I believe this is part of the great reset that's underway.
Yes.
With Agenda 2030. It's a separation by race, by economic class. It's identifying groups of that are outside the groupthink and the collective. And all they have to do, and they did it in Russia, they did it in Germany. I was over in Germany and I went around and saw the stars They actually put little gold stars at the doorsteps of where they wrongly arrested Jews before they killed them. The Germans feel so bad for what they did. And here we are. Yeah, we need to burn books, take information off the internet. We need to identify classes of people that are bad. We need to make sure we restrict speech. We need to redistribute. George Soros, if you remember, guys, if you don't know, he was interviewed on 60 Minutes years ago, and his family, actually his uncle, I think, would go into the homes where the Jews were dragged away and get their stuff and sell it as a Jewish person. So I think that's what my biggest concern here are the Americans that are turning on Americans, even though we're all supposed to be under the same Constitution. The last thing we're going to talk about is Anthony Fauci. Now, let me stop real quick. So we can have different opinions. What do you think should happen with COVID? Should people just go out and challenge the culture, or should we work with groups and try to educate first before we go out, or however you guys want to talk about it? Ethan, how do you think the COVID situation, since states are opened, CDC changed their regulations, said it's not mandatory, should we be tolerant of the intolerant now, or should we just say, leave me alone?
Intolerant of the intolerant? What do you mean?
In other words, like if you want to go out and shopping and you know there's some people that are going to be mad at you, but you know that the CDC said it's no longer required, should you just blow them off? Or are you still going to try to engage them publicly, even though you know it's going to turn into an altercation? Should we try to talk to these people, or should we just live under the reality and move on? In your opinion, this is I'm a Marine, so I have a very confrontational personality. But that doesn't say I'm right.
I think that we should. Yeah, it's fair enough. That's true across the. My personal opinion is you go out and you confront it. If you don't confront something, it's never going to change. And I know that. And I don't think that we should become violent. We should become BLM incorporated. But I think that we should definitely go out and confront the issue.
Okay, how about you, Danita? Since you're the data collector, are you also the? I'm at Costco. I'm shopping. Get out of my face. Or are you going to try to just do your shopping, not look at them, and slowly are we going to try to allow them to intimidate us, or are we going to try to challenge them with truth in the public square? So, how are you feeling?
I mean, I actually haven't worn a mask since May of last year.
Okay, I
either. I mean, well, that's a lie. I think I wore it for 2 flights because I did fly on an airplane, and they would have kicked me off, and I really don't want to be blacklisted from flying ever again. So I wore it for 2 flights, and I've gone into Costco like twice. But other than that, I'm going to act the same way I've acted this entire time. Okay. I am not going to go out of my way to offend people and make people upset and to open their eyes, because most people, when you push them, they will either fall over or they're going to push back.
Right.
Now, if you wait for them to be like, hey, why aren't you wearing a mask? Then I'll be like, okay, cool. You want to know why I'm not wearing a mask? Here's why. I'll give you 30 sources right now in the grocery store. Go look them all up. Write them down in your phone. And I can list them like that. But I'm not going to go to a grocery store looking for a fight, looking to confront somebody. Do I mind confrontation? No, I don't mind confrontation. Do I enjoy confrontation? I don't know. I don't like contentious confrontation. Right. I kind of like confronting people and being like, hey, like, think about this. Get your brain moving, But I don't enjoy contention. I don't like people screaming and yelling. And they've been screaming and yelling racist, bigotry, Nazi, blah, 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 blah for years and years. And I have never done that to them. And I won't do that to them. And I think that it's the same thing with the whole cancel culture. I think that the right at this point is like, well, we need to start playing their game and canceling them. And I'm like, but that's not going to help. We need to educate. And if people are ready to learn and they're ready to take the red pill, they will.
So Courtney, so here, we'll close this up. We'll go round table one more time here. So 87% of Democrats think it's Israel's fault. And people are thinking we're kind of opening. I'm sorry?
You said 80% of Democrats think it's what? I didn't hear.
They're blaming Israel.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, Fauci, who we've mentioned, has written a lot about masks and things like that. He's now saying that even though we're going to be out trying to educate people that we're reopened, now the government's going to say, but in a year you have to get a booster shot. Mm-hmm. So how do we try to? I mean, is it going to be through the websites and the blogs and are people? How do we get them to listen to us? I think have you guys figured out the magic? Because they don't listen to me. But how do we get them to listen to, hey, if the first argument was we don't need masks from Fauci, they don't work, and then it's just get the vaccine. And now if you get the vaccine, you should be able to not wear a mask. And now it's, well, you should still wear a mask if you've been vaccinated. And now Bill Maher, who got vaccinated, ended up getting COVID after being vaccinated. And now they're saying, oh, and we're going to give you another shot in a year. So don't feel free. Don't think you're okay now. You still need another shot. How are we going to, because you're an optimistic person. So what are you going to say to people that say, yeah, but we still have to get another shot, Courtney? I mean,
so I think it's really important for people to start looking at the language. They're masters of manipulating the language. You know, this is the thing that the postmodernists did really understand, and that's why the left has usurped it as a strategic tool, because, you know, Derrida's whole philosophy about how language can manipulate and really shape culture. And so when you look at that, one of the things they keep saying is fully vaccinated. Well, what does fully vaccinated mean, right? Does it mean after you've had, if it's the mRNA injections, does it mean after you've had the 2 shots, or does it mean after 3 months, after 6 months, after a year, or however often they say you need follow-up booster shots, which they're going to do with the Janssen and, you know, all the other viral vector mechanisms as well. So I think it's really important to understand that they have an agenda. They are not going to stop. And I think the mistake is that a lot of people make is that they think appeasement is the key. Oh, right. Now, you know, Biden says that the rule is really simple. Just, you know, get vaccinated and you don't have to wear a mask. They keep pushing the goalpost. Anybody remember 2 weeks to flatten the curve?
Right.
And what happened to that? We're like, how long after are we now? You know, so we're not worrying about flattening the curve. They just keep moving the goalpost. And I think that's what really needs to be understood, because once you start understanding that, you stop giving into the incrementalism that they're trying to execute. You know, they think they just take a little bit. And I always use the analogy of a game of tug of war. You know, when you lose an inch, it doesn't seem so bad. Okay, we can get back. We can pull 2 inches. But what happens when you keep giving an inch? Before you know it, you're miles down the road and you have no idea how you got there. We're looking at, you know, in this country, well over 100 years of this type of incrementalism that's been, you know, they have to lay the groundwork of conditioning in order to then implement these policies that move the goalpost further and further. You know, the conditioning outside this country has gone so much beyond one century, where we're talking hundreds, you know, thousands of years.
Right.
So I think that's really the key. The key is to say no and to stop. And I really do think that it starts, you know, with individuals, but it's, you know, all politics is local. So people need to get really involved locally with their local politics, get involved. The states need to take back some of the federal power that has been usurped. And I think, yes, individual, you know, citizen journalism is incredibly important. You know, things like what we're doing, you know, people like what we're doing right now, this podcasting, people having discussions and conversations. So I think, you know, everybody, there's many different ways. I don't think there's a one prong approach. It's multifaceted. But I think people need to stop sitting on the sidelines and saying, "Oh yeah, it's okay. We'll just wear a mask for another week. Okay, yeah, we'll just get one more injection." No, it stops. It has to stop before it's, we have no recourse and no power and no sovereignty.
I think I stole most of your material the last week because that's all of my shows. Everything you just said. I like the tug rope because that is what I've been saying for years as an older guy is that what I say on my show every day is I think we're losing. Yeah. Because we go get a little bit of victory and they get a big victory. And that rope, you got the flag on it, it gets towed this way and then we kind of pull back. But in the end, they gained an inch and they gained an inch. And then we wake up like, well, I'm going to close with this and we'll get your final thoughts. As a Christian, I'm not worried about things in the end, but I am worried. I'm not worried. I'm concerned for my children and grandchildren that there'll be a day if we don't stop this, that my children will be denied work because of their skin color or isolated or rejected because of their faith. And it's not a white issue. It's a class issue where they're identifying now that white Christian man, cisgender, healthy, able body is now the target audience to segregate. And it never seems to come back around until there's a Holocaust or people die. 100 million people or more died in the last 115 years from communism. 100 million people died. They go after the farmers. They go after the wealthy. They go after the people that are educated that know what they're up to. And I don't want it to happen again here. That's the whole gist of my worldview is I don't want America to be an asterisk in 200 years from now that the great whatever happened and it was my generation's fault because I'm writing a book called 51, but I think it all started after World War I. I think as I can progressively show the attack on the nuclear family, attack on nationalism, on and on and on. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. So, so truthmatters.biz is the place to go. And you guys, I know this is an awkward question, but is there any parting words you would want to say to people? We're by the way, we're reaching now even people that are they're no longer online. They're watching on antennas in San Francisco. So I'm on a network now that reaches thousands of people that are totally no internet, nothing. They are basically they're preppers, and that's part of my audience that are saying, I don't want the government to get my IP address. I don't want them to do this. So what would you say to people that are in the Bay Area that are totally offline? Like what are you going to try to do to what can you do as writers, as younger people, Danita, when you're getting that data, how can these people feel like we got hope because of people like you guys? What's your encouragement to people out there that are feeling down right now?
I think that it's really important that we don't run and hide. So, this is kind of an analogy that I use just because a lot of people are taught when something happens, right? When an active shooter is around or when something happens, they say, run, hide, fight, right? And that's the order you should do it in. And I always say, even in front of so many people, if somebody ever says that to me, whether it be a trainer, whether it be a teacher, whatever it is, I say, no, I will always fight. I will always fight. And if we run and hide, more people are going to die. More people are going to be confused. More people are going to be discouraged. So I think that it starts, and I'm not saying that you have to go and fight the entire government. I'm saying don't run and hide your opinions, hide your research, hide your life from your friends and your neighbors and your family. That's the biggest thing, is getting word out to the individual. And Courtney and Ethan and Mitch and Tyler and I on our Calling America podcast, we actually talk about this. Like, what's the number one thing you can do? Everybody thinks, well, you should email your state legislature. You should do this. yeah, you could do that. You should do that. But you should be researching and then sharing those things with the individuals around you, because that's going to be the most important thing. And for me, that is the most important thing. So for Truth Matters, yes, we're doing this on a huge platform, or we hope to be a huge platform someday. But really, we want the individual to go and interact with the individual and red pill individuals, because that's how it starts.
Okay, Ethan, so when do you expect to have your journalism degree?
It depends on whether or not Truth Matters takes off. If Truth Matters takes off, I'll drop out of college and help run that and focus on that.
Well, Courtney said it's going to take off, so I guess you're not going to finish college.
Exactly.
Well, Carl Bernstein didn't need a college degree, and I know that people don't like comparison, but still, he doesn't have a degree. You don't need a degree to be a journalist. What you need is you have the ability to find information.
No, I agree with you, and I didn't get a degree. I went from Marine Corps air traffic
Is out
controller.
there and it's made available to us.
Yep. No, I agree with you, and I'm sorry about the delay. I'm not sure why you're doing that, but I know you have a lot of great stuff to say, and next time we're going to somehow make sure that we're hearing you. Okay, guys and girls, hey, I appreciate you being on. I'll promote your stories, so make sure if you guys, check out my website, magabook.com. That's my version of Facebook.
Do we have time for me to say one really quick thing?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So my closing thoughts, I very much agree with, not running and hiding.
Sure.
You said two things that I think are really integral to expound upon. One is, you said as a Christian, you're not afraid. And I hear this from a lot of people, and I absolutely promote people, embracing their faith and, not being afraid, because I think fear is a huge problem, and it's a tool that's being used to manipulate currently. However, I don't want people to mistake that sense of comfort or lack of fear for retreating and inaction. People still need to fight, that fighting for what is right and for your personal convictions is always it's essential. It has glory and honor. And so I think, regardless of the outcome, that, pursuit of truth and fight and, that desire to shine the light and to fight for what is right is really, really important. And the second thing I want to say is that in terms of you're talking about the preppers who are off the grid.
Right.
I completely understand this, but I think part of their goal and their intention is to separate and scatter all of us, and so that we can't unite and we can't communicate, so that we are all atomized. And I think that it is a huge mistake for, patriots in particular, but really even, outside this country, people who are, believers and promulgators of freedom, for them to, run and hide and separate. We need to build communities. There is strength in numbers. We're social creatures. One of the strongest components of healing and of thriving is social interaction amongst loved ones. And so we need to really foster that, and we need to bolster each other, and we need to bolster, people who are seeking freedom, because free will is what preserves humanity. That is what makes us unique as human beings, is that we have free will, and we need to promote people who are advocating free will and free thought.
I agree with you. And we'll have to, next time you guys are going to come on, so you're welcome on weekly or whenever you guys want to come on to promote what you're talking about. I think we'll have a good discussion on, should people of faith be engaged in the politics? I mean, I agree with you 100%. If I know that I vote and they'll stop aborting babies, and I don't because I don't want to get involved, when I could just go vote, I think there's a disconnect there between civics and faith and God's sovereignty and our ability to cause change. Because we never were designed to be a theocracy, as in God is over Israel. But I mean, when it comes to our country, we have freedom of religion, which I don't know. For me personally, when I'm not going to go on a diatribe. I kind of wish we wouldn't. I wish we would have said we're a Christian nation, but we didn't. So we now have a plethora. They now have Satanists have statues in Minnesota and courthouses around the country because they're under the religion protections. But that's a whole nother discussion. Okay, guys. Podcast wise, you said you guys are doing a podcast too. So what is your podcast you do collectively, and how do they get a hold of it?
So our podcast is called Calling America. We also have the Courtney Turner podcast. She's been doing her podcast for almost a year now, and it's amazing. She has tons of episodes. She does more discussions with all types of topics, active workout, daily life, things like that, and also politics. Calling America, what we do for the Calling America podcast is we have correspondents around the U.S. This last podcast we did for Calling America was about the HR 1 bill in Congress. And that is the For the People Act that is to have election integrity, but really it's just federalizing all of these things so that they can cheat however they want. And I'm not just saying that as my opinion. I am saying that as reading the 600-page bill and going through it step by step. You can go and read it as well. We also have an article about it on our Truth Matters website. But Calling America, right now, it's really only on SoundCloud and YouTube. YouTube kind of shadow bans it and doesn't allow people to search for it. So you might have to go and click on it from our website directly. And we have applied to have it at Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify, but all three of them are still not letting us in because, well, we're talking about things that they don't want out there. So I don't know if we'll ever be on Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Spotify. So you got YouTube and SoundCloud at this point.
Okay, yeah, we're actually going to be launching magottv.com, so I can get you guys. Sorry, go ahead, Ethan.
Awesome. Yeah, and we are going to have the Ethan Hay show as well soon. He's going to be launching his podcast as well. So we have a couple of others that are on the way. So we'll have a whole podcast section for the website, and we'd love to work with you. And we're
going to be 24-hour television. I'll have news like on the hour. It's going to be it'll be like an InfoWars without going in the weeds. Sometimes we're gay frogs and all that. We're not going to do that. But I think it's a way where you guys can have a schedule where you're in a rotation, so people coming there are looking for data. Yeah. I'm a little more on the open to conspiracy, but I'm still a very conservative person because if I don't have facts, I don't say it typically.
Well, I will just say this: conspiracies actually do exist. That's the only thing is a conspiracy theory. A theory is something that has not yet been proven, but conspiracies exist. That's why the world exists. And conspiracies can only survive in the dark. So when there is a conspiracy and we know it for sure and we have evidence to prove it, it needs to be brought to light so that it can be stopped. I think that's really important. And they weaponized the term conspiracy theory in 1957 with the Warren Commission because they didn't want anybody investigating. The CIA weaponized the term. So people need to stop being afraid of because conspiracies actually do exist. That doesn't mean every conspiracy theory is accurate or provable.
Right.
It does mean conspiracies exist and they need to be brought to light.
I think there's a difference, like Courtney's saying, there's a difference between conspiracies and conspiracy theories. Conspiracies are conspiracy theories that have been proven and have actual evidence to prove them as conspiracies and actually things that people are conspiring together to do this and that. Conspiracy theories is, I think people are conspiring together to do this and that. So,
and that's what I want to be. I want to have that on the magottv.com is that conspiracy hour or a segments or where if you've heard about something, you can go and know that you guys have actually done the research, and then we can take a stand on it and say it's not a conspiracy anymore, it's fact.
Yes.
And translate it.
It can only survive in the dark. It needs to be brought to light.
So I'm excited. So they know how to get a hold of your podcast on YouTube, and then, but basically if they go to truthmatters.biz, they're going to get access to all of it, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're going to get the best direct access from our website and Telegram. We do post the actual individual videos and the links to the YouTube. every day we're posting a new clip from our podcast. So you can go to any of our social media pages as well, but those are also shadow banned. So our website is the best place to get all the information and all the direct links.
And I can get YouTube. I can get your show YouTube shows for all of those on Truth Matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, because then what I do is I embed that in the Maggot TV player, and it'll play 4 times a day automatically.
Okay.
And so people are watching YouTube, but they don't know it because they're watching it. They're watching it in the player. So I've got a mixture of live, and we've got a mixture, and then eventually, when Ethan's out there challenging people in the streets, he can go live, and he'll hit that entire audience, even the people up in the mountains. So, well, I'm excited. You guys are sharp. We homeschooled our kids. We're passionate about things, and but I know that if we don't unite, then they're going to systematically pick us off. And I think personally we're right there. I think we're at that Y in the road. We're either going to go down Marxism, or we're going to be the nation that, in spite of being the only nation in the world that's fighting this to a degree, Australia has rolled over, Canada's rolled over, England's rolled over. We're that one light on the hill, like Reagan said, going, no.
That's the inception of our nation. Our nation is the only nation with a constitution like ours that was predicated on, natural law, the right that we were endowed by our creator with inalienable rights.
Right.
We are the only nation that has that woven into our founding documents. So it makes sense that we would be, the bastion for this fight.
Well, we're all in for it. So Danita and Courtney and Ethan, thank you guys for being on. And you guys head over to truthmatters.biz to get all the articles, get the information. And you guys have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks
We'll
for
see you
having
next
us
time.
on.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Hey.
Bye.